Apparently we are various people. Hello. We're not scientists or us at all, just people that were waiting at the bus stop and just thought we'd wander in. Hi. My name is Susan Morrison, and according to this I am what was I again?
Illustrious.
I was illustrious, which makes me sound like an aircraft carrier. It was an aircraft carrier, actually. Amongst other things, I work at the Stand Comedy Club, but I'm also somebody who's involved in a thing called the Cabaret of Dangerous Ideas during the Fringe, where we bring researchers out to discuss their ideas with the general public during the Fringe, which is always exciting, if a bit sweaty, I think. I am the chair, so I'll be firing some questions out, and then I think about 6:45 we'll get time for some Q&A of you guys as well, perhaps even earlier than that, if the conversation dries up. But I don't think it will, because these are extremely interesting people. And we're going to get them to introduce themselves. You'll notice that there's somebody joining us remotely, like a Bond villain from his lair. So we'll come to Michael last, if that's okay. So we'll start here with Bill, if you just want to tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Susan, I'm Bill Addison. I work at Edinburgh Science, and we do the Edinburgh Science Festival each year. And as well as that, so that's just for 2 weeks in Easter, but we do tons of work all around the rest of the year. We do a lot of work overseas. We do the Abu Dhabi Science Festival each year. We do touring exhibitions and things, and we're increasingly active in the kind of climate space as well, trying to promote discussions and conversations around that.
Thank you.
I'm Nicola Osborne. I'm Programme Manager for Creative Informatics, which supports creative people to do new stuff with data and data-driven innovation. And so there's various people in the room who will be able to tell you more about their projects and things in that space, actually, because this is also one of the projects funded by Creative Informatics. I'm also the manager of the Institute for Design Informatics, which we are sat in. So that's me. I'm also a coding performer as well. How many excited?
Great coding performer. Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. Yeah, hecklers, she just hits them. It's amazing.
Recording in progress.
As if by magic, the
As if by magic. There's the heckler.
Revenge.
Go get her. That voice is really creepy, isn't it? We should have got used to it. Yeah, thank you very much. Gemma.
Hello everyone, I'm Gemma Lawrence. I work with a charity called Creative Carbon Scotland, which focuses on supporting, promoting and harnessing the role of our arts and cultural sector in addressing the climate emergency. So I met Jonathan through an arts and science networking session which we were running, was it this year? Earlier this year? So we do a lot of, I suppose, supporting collaborations between artists and people working on climate change, which obviously includes scientists, but also includes policymakers, people working in different institutions and communities. So yeah, looking forward to discussing the sort of nature of those collaborations and the kinds of support that we provide.
Thanks, Jonathan. Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Elders. So I am an artist who's found a bit of a home for myself in the scientific community over the last few years. It's been great, there's been many opportunities. It's been quite a complicated process with a lot of learning, and I'm interested, like I say, in supporting having a facility for artists who are interested in reaching out to the scientific community so that they can become more informed before they make those kind of first steps. And there are lots of good institutions, as several of the panellists represent, who will help facilitate artists and scientists working together. But I think key to the process is perhaps offering information before people do even connect or reach out, and give people as much support as they can to be informed and see the whole kind of journey and what's all involved, and hopefully give them the confidence to take those kind of first steps. So that's the basis of Cognition Arts. Yes, so we've got the event here tonight, like I was saying, to discuss all the points further, and I'm interested to see what comes out of it. Thank you.
And now, from his lair somewhere, actually he's been trapped by strikes, I think we've got Michael. Michael?
Hello. So I'm Mikey Jarrell, and I'm the Public Engagement Manager at the Institute of Physics in Scotland. We're a membership organisation that represent physicists and support physics in all its many forms. And one strand of that work that I'm responsible for in Scotland is public engagement, as well as running our own public activities for our member physicists with audiences all around Scotland. We also, including a science festival in Glasgow called the Big Bounce. We also run a public engagement grant scheme to support projects that improve the attitude of the public to physics, whether that's creative or from the public engagement world or from the academic world. And we've, in the last year or two, been actively reaching out to creatives to apply to our fund via supporting them and pairing them with physicists to put applications in for public engagement projects. We run a continuous rolling fund of small pots of £2,500. Also, just while it's still on me, I can't really hear what anyone's saying, so you might have to go back to the 2 mic shuffle, I'm afraid, guys, sorry. Especially if you're recording, it's not going to pick it up. Sorry, Susan.
Not at all. I will, at my advanced age. Good Lord, this is a workout for the biceps. Honestly, that's a hefty piece of equipment. I wouldn't like to smack somebody with that. Well, actually, I might come think of it. There are a few people in Asda the other day that could have gotten a right smack over the head with that. Thank you very much, Michael. Now, we had a really interesting workshop earlier on today where a lot of fascinating subjects were addressed and ideas were raised, but I want to kind of start with something that we did talk about. I'm going to start on this side with Nicola and with Bill, and I'm going to start with you, Bill, actually, so I'll have to hand you the microphone. And it's the Science Festival. How do you reach out to artists, or how do they reach out to you?
Thank you. How do we reach out to artists? I suppose the first way we do a big open call for participation every year. Our Science Festival happens at Easter each year in the school holidays, and we start off the process back in kind of summer the year before, sort of June, July, August time. We release an open call that goes out to all the networks, everyone that we can think of that we know about, and so that will go out, it'll appear on our website, it goes out to groups like Creative Informatics or to any other, artist network groups that we can think of, but it's also fully open to individuals and so on. And we try and describe there what it is we're looking for. And we are usually looking for, and this is something we've talked a bit about today, we're usually looking for finished pieces that we can exhibit rather than new pieces that don't exist yet that we can commission. That's not a hard and fast rule at all by any means. It depends on what kind of pots we've got going on, what kind of funding we've got available and so on. But generally, that's how it works. We do an open call or a call for submission for ideas for anyone who's available and who has heard of it. And there's the rub. How do you actually hear about it? And traditionally, that goes out, like I say, in the summer. But occasionally, we have different projects going on throughout the year where we would reach out in different ways.
Nicola, it's very much part of your job as well, isn't it? Reaching out to the artistic community and bringing them in. But how do you do that?
I think for us, we've been funding sort of creative data-driven work, including lots of products and service experiences. Some of it's artistic work, some of it's creative products of a different kind of type. Sometimes it's new performances and things. To reach the kind of community we want to reach, we kind of started by looking at what was already there in terms of creative communities. So trying to reach out through Creative Scotland kind of website, trying to reach out through networks that we're aware of, trying to reach out to the sort of techie end of the creative landscape, as well as the more artistic end. We cover all the different creative industries, so it's lots of different communities. So we try and kind of do a lot of signposting across those communities. And because we've been around now for about 3 years, coming to our 4th year, we do now have our own community as well. So we now have a good set of people to kind of flag opportunities to. So yeah, it's been through very kind of classical stuff. It's like websites for opportunities, it's mailing lists, it's social media, but it's also been a lot of scouting around to find all the different places one might be looking for funding opportunities. And then because we've been going for a while, there's now word of mouth. But because we're one of those projects that only is around for a certain period of time, will disappear, and then someone else has to start it all up again. So we're trying to make sure that there is a much more graceful transition than that. So the community doesn't lose those accesses to our stuff, but also other stuff we've been pointing them towards, other funding opportunities and things.
Graceful transition. I do like the sound of good. Jamila, you were telling me of a very interesting project you were involved with, some maritime conservation. And how exactly did that come about, and how did you bring the artists into that?
Yep. So I was describing a project called Seas of the Outer Hebrides, which we were involved in for 3-4 years. So that actually came about through Nature Scot, who are sort of Scotland's nature conservation agency. One of their marine policy officers got in touch with us, and he had a real interest in suppose, using more creative approaches to engaging communities, particularly in issues around marine protected areas, which are these conservation areas which have been set up in our seas to help protect particular species and habitats, which I think it's fair to say there's been quite a lot of challenges around how those conservation areas have been set up, tended to be quite top down and not terribly participatory in terms of engaging communities. So they were looking for a kind of whole different approach as to how they would do this. They came across our work, which is really focused around this building connections across different sectors, including between artists and people working on climate change in different ways. So we helped them to kind of shape the brief, if you like. That's one of the things we often get involved in at that early stage of saying, what are the kind of aims and ambitions of this project, and how can we sort of shape a brief that an artist or multiple artists could respond to. So that project, the funding kind of came in sort of pockets and dribs and drabs. So we ran a number of open calls. We also just got in touch with local arts organizations based there and asked them to kind of recommend artists who they were working with, because that's, I think, particularly important when you're working in a place to say, we're a national organization, we don't necessarily have those links at a local level. So making those relationships, at a very local level and saying, you know best your audiences, you know best your artists, so can we work together on this? But in another instance, we ran an open call where we kind of specified a range of skills and approaches that we were looking for, and ran a fairly standard sort of recruitment process around that. So it's a bit of a mix depending on what's needed.
Lovely. Before I come back to you, Jonathan, I'm going to go to Michael. And if he's, are you there? Are you there?
I am.
And how do you reach out to the artistic community? You put me in the Barra's ballroom, as I recall.
Did. Yeah. Yeah, that's our Glasgow festival in the East End at the Barrowlands. We thought we'd use the place in the daytime for a change to do some things in. And I remember you managed to get a wee dance in at the end, Susan.
I did,
even though it was indeed, about 3 p.m. Yeah.
It's never too early to disco. That's what I say.
How do we reach creative audiences? Well, through the Creative Scotland message board was a opportunities board was obviously the obvious one, but I was surprised that it hadn't been done before, and that how many people we know we've had expressing interest just simply from doing that one thing, because it is a central hub. I will hold my hands up though, because we have a rolling open fund that can be applied to any time. On that board, you actually have to put an end date for your listing, and I think mine's expired because I need to remember that you constantly have to refresh and repost something that is a constantly open opportunity. So I have a horrible feeling it's actually not live on the Creative Scotland Opportunities board right now, but I'll certainly check and make sure it is. And then through word of mouth so far, and I admit freely that we should be doing more networking, and that's why I'm here. And because traditionally, as a funding body and as a sort of learned society, have had barriers up between us and the creative world, and that's what we're trying to kind of bridge now. So Creative Scotland Opportunities Board was the low-hanging fruit, and it's borne lots of fruit for us and has been great, but we need to do better and reach out and reach further, and also provide, make sure that we're really responsive and provide a lot of support to people once they do get in touch with us.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to slightly turn it on its head now. I'm going to bring you in, Jonathan. So, like, how do you, an artist, and how do you find your scientists? Oh yes.
Yeah, so to answer the question, sorry, two mics in my hands. Feel like some kind of DJ or I don't know what.
I appreciate it, Jonathan. Thanks.
No worries. Yeah, so there's a bit of chat earlier about my approach to art, and it was being described as speculative. So a lot of work that I've done is been actually, rather than just kind of responding to an open call, I mean, the dream for an artist is there's an open call to an extent, and you apply for it, you get it. You don't have to think about anything other than your artwork. You get the venue, you get funding, your work gets promoted, everybody's happy, especially yourself. The scientific community is great. There are lots of opportunities, especially to exhibit at festivals. But lots of these opportunities, you kind of have to forge them to a degree yourself, I've found. And please, audience members, when we're having the Q&A, step in, disagree with me, describe your own personal journeys if you have any. But yeah, so to find scientists to collaborate with, it's either been a kind of little kind of chain reaction that I've been introduced to scientists, and this has led on to other opportunities. But most of the times it's been from directly just getting in touch with universities, like Edinburgh had the Beltane network, and saying, I have this project that I'd like to do, and seeing if anybody will respond. And I've also found a key part of that has been not just reaching out and saying, I'd like to work with somebody, but if I'm going to get a response from anybody, it's to say, I have this project, I'm aiming to have it as part of this festival, and I'm looking at this venue. And once there's a bit more kind of meat on the subject there, then I find that people are a lot more likely to respond. If I'm honest, a big part of being an artist and reaching out to organizations is most of the time people don't respond. But I have to say the organizations represented here are particularly good at it, which is perhaps how I've managed to rope them into being here in the first place.